And we're live. Welcome to the Earful of Dirt Major League Rugby podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're back after a brief break for Thanksgiving. I'm Corey. I'm in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I'm joined by Aaron Castro in Arizona and Liam Madigan-Freed, recently relocated to Houston. How you doing, guys? How's your week? Or I guess how's your couple of weeks?
Well, there's a lot of turkey, lots of adult beverages, lots of her family, and I'm fat.
Yeah, I'm progressively getting fatter because Grant Cole's wife, Jen, is an amazing cook, and she's been actually, feeding me. I had Thanksgiving with Grant and his family down here in Texas, which was a, fun experience. Houston traffic is awful, but other than that, though, I'm loving it.
Yeah, well, around here, we're hunkered down for 2 days watching the sky, expecting a huge blizzard to descend on us, and that never actually happened. We got no snow in the great winter storm of 2018, so I think Chicago got it pretty bad, but Cedar Rapids managed to miss it, not a flake. So, there's something, before we get started, there's something I wanted to take care of real quick.
Yeah.
Just need to kind of throw this away. All right, I'm feeling much better now. So, for those of you new to the podcast, we're Earful of Dirt. Like I said earlier, we're a Major League Rugby podcast. We do this each Monday night live here on YouTube, where we discuss news, rumors, and all the latest on MLR. If you don't want to watch us, which why would you? You can always take a listen. We do have our weekly podcast audio version that's up every Wednesday morning. But this gives us a chance to check out the issues, hear from the league, players, and team leadership, and check in with our friends across the rugby scene. So, with all that said, Aaron, what do we have going on this week?
Well, Eagles Tour Roundup, we're going to go into Romania since we took a break last week, and then we'll cover Ireland and some overall observations about where we are now. Canada punches their ticket to the 2019 Rugby World Cup, and that is extremely important, which I'll get into also as part of my commentary. MLR shows off their Season 2 kits, so we'll give you some hot or nots. And then Liam has a little preview for the Saba Cats versus the Austin Blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Some nice exhibition action coming up there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so, the last couple of weeks have been a lot of highs and lows for USA Rugby fans, I'll tell you. We started out, the third week of the test series took place in Bucharest, Romania versus the Romanian national team, and we took care of business there. That was November 17th. We beat Romania 31-5. And that extended our winning streak, the USA Eagles winning streak, to 9 games at that point. So, and then, of course, from there, we'll talk a little bit about the Irish match here coming up. But, Aaron, you had some thoughts on the Romania game.
Yeah, so, when I was watching the match, I thought we played a very ugly match. But in years past, normally when we play ugly, we usually lose ugly, and that wasn't the case. Attack-wise, for the most part, we ran our attack pretty well, and it was different because it was Ruben de Haas's second start, and you really see what he did there from the Samoa match, and he's looking a lot more confident, and I think he will end up earning a bunch of senior time in the second half of the season for the Cheetahs. But their attack got suffocated, and their defense got demolished. Let's just look at the stats. Romania had no possession in the second half. Think about that.
That's really hard to do, even at any level. Sometimes, even a knock-on goes into your guy's hands, on luck, and you get to run a few feet with it. That didn't even happen.
Yeah, this is where when I looked at the stats, and I sort of had to change my opinion about how we actually played, because being able to control the ball for, let's say, I saw them have the ball. So but to the point where it didn't even notch a percent in the second half, and to control the ball for 83% to 17% in this match says a lot about what we were able to do against Romania. And, you know, it's, what was it? I think Alan Yarde of Austin, when he's talked about the way he wants to play, is to never give up the ball. And in rugby union 15s, you can never give up the ball if you desire, provided you don't commit a knock-on or penalty. So, and that's what we did in the second half. We didn't commit a lot of penalties, and we scored a lot. Overall, 5 tries to 1. Their try was in the first half. That's a great ratio. Let's look at the tackles, and this one's going to be important because I'll also discuss this, how we played against Ireland. So we had 178, correction. Romania had 178 tackles. We had 94. Think about that. So basically all we did was we played some power rugby and we drove up their tackle rate and wrecked their fitness overall. And then we did a lot of cool things, a lot of kicks and chase. With that lineup, Will McGee put the ball down. Marcel Brocky even put the ball down. Paul Lasike can put the ball down, and that allows you to attack downfield. We started also to see how efficient we can be against other tier 2 countries and those ranked below us. It's going to be a question of how much can we raise our level consistently of teams that are ranked above us.
Well, I kind of like that point, Aaron, because now that we're a tier 2 nation and we're in the top 12, we have to expect to be winning games like this. Winning a game like this over Romania, a fellow tier 2 team, and especially by this margin and with the statistics that you mentioned, that bodes well. But again, you kind of said, we did win this game a little bit ugly, especially in the first half. I know the statistics didn't exactly show that, but like as we discussed before we went live, it still wasn't the prettiest of wins. So if we're going to keep on progressing, games like this have to get more fluid. We have to be able to abide by the basics, the fundamentals of rugby. And to continue to win in a more pretty fashion, if you will. But right now, I think we're on a good pace, especially considering that we're at the highest ranking that we've ever been in. And I think a game like this against Romania does wonders for our reputation around the world. The result against Ireland notwithstanding.
Well, I guess since you mentioned it, we might as well move along to the second half of this 2-weekend window here.
9-1, baby, 9-1.
9-1, hell. Anywhere else in the world, that would be that's a heck of a thing by itself. Okay, so you know what? I'm not hanging my head too low that we got.
There was only one team that deserved Team of the Year. That wasn't the Eagles, and we definitely got snubbed. Basically, if you look at nominations for Team of the Year, if you're a Tier 2 nation, it doesn't count apparently. But Ireland won Team of the Year, and their results speak for themselves. Grand Slam, win over the All Blacks, undefeated at home in the Autumn Internationals. So,
and Johnny Sexton's award for Man of the Year is just the cherry on top of that, isn't it? That is so. I don't care what it says.
Last Saturday, we traveled to Dublin to take on the Irish. We did lose that match. 55-14 was the final. I'll say I actually thought the first half went really well for the Eagles. I saw a lot to enjoy. It did hurt a lot when Joe Tafete went down. And I think that, for me, that was really the turning point. And honestly, about the 55-minute mark is where I started kind of tuning out a little bit of the match and just being like, well, maybe I'm going to look at my phone now. But I don't know. What did you guys think?
Well, that injury to Joe was sort of the black cherry on top of this game. But, in the end, this game really came down to fitness. the first 3 quarters of the first half, we really displayed what we've been doing well. We played good defense between the 22s. We were moving the ball, at an acceptable pace against such a really good team, and we were able to put up points early. However, where fitness comes in is towards the end of the first half and the entire second half, we were making mistakes that we weren't supposed to be making as a professional national team. We were committing knock-ons. We were getting in our own way. It just didn't seem like we were playing rugby at an acceptable tactical level towards the second half, and that was really our downfall. That's why we weren't able to put enough points on the board in the second half, and that's why we let the Irish Wings walk all over us in the second half and put up as many points as they did, because we simply weren't making the tackles, and that's because we didn't have the energy. And that's what Ireland does so well, is that they can outpace any opponent, and they can continue to slam up the middle or spread it wide to the outside and take advantage of any kind of weakness as a result of that lack of fitness.
Yeah, this was a different one overall. It's hard to judge this depending on what the KPIs were, because I remember sitting down with Gary in Houston for the Scotland match, and he said, winning was not on our KPIs. We're building towards a World Cup, and the win was important against Scotland, and a win would have been significant. I think we sort of knew going in what we were going to face. I think we would have been better off if Joe Schmidt wasn't nice to his players and played the 23 that he fielded against the All Blacks, because they were battered and busted and tired, just like we were. We had a long tour, and what he basically put out was a fresh side. There was only 4 guys on the roster that played the All Blacks that was on this roster, and only one of them started. But it definitely shows the depth of Irish rugby that Joe Schmidt can call up what is basically a different squad completely from the previous week, and then run up 54 points or 55 points rather. For me, I think we talked about this before the show. I didn't think we played a good first 3 quarters of the first half. I thought we played a good back 3 quarters of the first half, because we were making tons of errors when it came to tackling, when it came to rucking, when it came to ball handling in those first 10 minutes. Frenetic would sort of give you that kind of description. But we were tied in the middle of that first half, 14-14, and you sort of felt the momentum shift when we earned that penalty try. But it's something I've discussed with Gary a little bit here and there, and Greg and some of the players. It's sort of finding the energy to step up our game when we have the man advantage, because more often than not, as we saw it against teams that play at such a high level like the Maori or Ireland, they just play better with even less players on the pitch, because they know that they have to tighten up their game. And when we closed it out and they scored 10 more points going into the half, we probably played some in the middle 20 minutes. I think we played some of the best rugby that we have the ability to play right now. And you still felt that we acquitted ourselves well during that period. But we talk about fitness and what that means and the ability to go on. And I thought we made some substitution errors. Samu Manoa has to play more than 13 minutes. Like, what he can do, that guy can go 80 minutes at will here and there, right? Because we've seen it happen. And only using him for 13 minutes, there has to be some fitness issues there. But in the second half, we made a lot of these errors in the first half, and that'll go into when we look at these stats. So the possession percentage, we had 36% of possession to 64% of possession. Meters made, we kind of got run over. 189 meters made to 655 meters made. And I'll tell you, ours had a lot of garbage. Theirs didn't have a lot of garbage. They spent a lot of time in our 22. and this is, fatigue and how it gets set in. One of the things as part of their game plan, we put out this big, fast, and, for us, a very skillful lineup. And what did they do? They had the same kind of lineup, and they dictated the tempo, forcing us to make 233 tackles. We ended up missing 33 tackles. They had 33 defenders beaten. They had 17-2 clean line breaks. And you know how many tackles they made? Because they had so much possession and they were fresh in how skillful what they were doing. They attempted 101 tackles and completed 93. So when you have to tackle that much, your fatigue and your fitness is just going to get wrong. And Joe Tafate posted about this on Twitter, I think early this morning for us, but regular time for him because he's back in Worcester. And he pulled up the stats and he was like, before I took a nap, it's funny because
before he got knocked the fuck out. Yeah.
Well, for everyone that wants to know, all of his tests, which I tweeted out this morning and posted on our Facebook yesterday, all of his tests came back negative. So there's nothing wrong. He's got a concussion and he'll be going through the concussion protocol back at Worcester. So, we may not see him until the ARC. And the reason why I say that is they might have him play a match or two to warm up so that then he'll be released back to the Premiership, to be honest. We usually only get those guys for a few games. But yeah, Joe Tafate was knocked out. He was making a tackle, and next thing you know, he's sprawled out there by himself away from where the ruck went, and the ref blows the whistle, and he's down there for a while. But all is well. Moving on to passes. This is a very key statistic compared to Romania, and this shows what Ireland was doing and making us run around the pitch a lot. We had 95 passes. They had 268. Wow. They, for being as forward dominant of a team as they are, they toss the rock around. Wow. Rucks won. This is one of the things that we had a clear differential on against Romania and some clear domination. We only won 69 rucks. And even a lot of those were questionable. They won 145. We turned the ball over. I saw what the turnover ratio was, and I was a bit surprised that it was so low because I felt that we lost a lot more rucks than this, and we gave up the ball a lot more. But, when you get dominated at the ruck, sometimes they commit a penalty, and you keep the ball.
And honestly, I think it was more so that a lot of those turnovers were in like the groaning kind of moments where it wasn't something that was consistent. That was a consistent problem, but I think it's more so it was happening in moments where you're like, just get out of your own fucking way, man. Just make the fucking catch.
Oh, and we saw that, and this is where commentary before the game, and sort of as we saw how much box kicking we were doing against Samoa and Romania, although we executed very well in our box kicking there. Sean and even Ruben de Haas did not execute our box kicks that well. We weren't able to provide a stable platform at the ruck for them to get those off, and you just had an Ireland forward just leaking through the block, which, created those turnovers. When you look at our set piece, we were actually very good on our lineouts. We were 5 for 5, and this sort of talks into we only had 5 lineouts. We need more of those because
we had 2 legitimate steals that I at least counted within the entire game. That creates possession, and that's the kind of thing that we need to put up points against.
So we were 5 for 5 for lineouts, and I think we had 3. I need to go through those stats. We had 3 steals, and they had a lot more lineouts than we did. We converted. We were successful on 3 of our 4 mauls. And back to the set piece. I hope everyone saw that penalty try off the maul, right? Just making sure. So that shows you really how efficient and how dominant our set piece can be, that we can earn a penalty try against someone like Ireland. Scrummaging, we were 6 of 7, which says a lot considering, especially in the second half when Dylan Fawcett had to come on. And we ended up having a scrum reset, and I think it was about 8 times. And that was more, I think I saw some commentary, and it was definitely a ref issue. Beelum, the tight head prop, was basically boring in on Dylan Fawcett the entire time. And that's, a different – Dylan's a lot smaller than Joe is. And, people have said a lot about, like, TD, and I know Grant's talked about footwork and, the giveaway to see that Bohr is going to be the footwork, but where the ref was, he could have seen it easily because he was on that side more than a few times to see that, and he just never called it. And I think that's a tier 2 versus tier 1 issue. I'm straight up saying it because it was pretty blatant, at least from my foxhole, while watching on a 55-inch TV.
Well, obviously the scrum isn't exactly where Dylan Fawcett shines. It's more so his ability in open play as a hooker and the responsibilities that come with that. However, not to say that the injury to Joe was good timing at all, because it's a horrible injury. But I think the point that Dylan came on was as good as time as any, because we actually need to create a little bit more offense. And I think that's where Dylan's best abilities lie rather than within the actual scrum.
As a scrummager, he's not a bad scrummager. What could he have done against he really couldn't do anything if a tight head is going to be out of position and bore in on him. That's not something that is his fault. I'm not blaming him for it's just because he's a bit smaller than Joe is. Beelum was able to get away with it, if that makes sense. Exactly. Because the ref didn't penalize him. And then what you just mentioned, what Dylan does, his work rate around the park, pretty good. He was probably in every single ruck from the moment he came on.
Exactly. He's around the ball constantly. He's going to be making that difference. And whether or not that difference is within the scrum or an open play, you need somebody like that who's actually going to affect the game whenever they're on the field. I think Rooney has a really good, option with him starting this season. And I think the USA made a really good choice in bringing him onto this roster and actually getting him that experience with getting a cap against a team like Ireland. I think Fawcett's ceiling is huge, but again, I think he actually has to improve within the pack and continue to do what he's doing in open play.
So before we move on, one of the questions that was bouncing around this week up on Reddit was whether USA, now being 12th place in the world, we should start talking about tier 1 status.
So that's a complicated and convoluted issue, but Fiji isn't a tier 1 team, and neither are we. Right now, who is considered a tier 1 team has nothing to do with on-field status. It has everything to do with your annual budget. And the closest union to moving towards tier 1 status right now is Japan. And they probably will get it after this World Cup, to be honest. The last number that was codified was an annual budget of 20 million pounds per year. And you can't just have that 1 year. You have to have that over a measured period of time. Once you can show that, hey, you have 20 million pounds, which equates to like $25 million a year right now, then it shows that you're stable and you're able to move up. Our budget, depending on the year, is between $13 and $16 million right now. So we're close, but our books are not good to go. I don't think I think I said this to DJ Coyle. I was like, I don't think a union that is going through a bailout / loan guarantee from World Rugby right now is able to clamor to be tier 1. That makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. And especially if we want to actually continue to work towards the tier 1 distinction, we have to crawl before we walk. And I think making promises and writing checks that we're just not prepared to do consistently, it's it's RIM or it's PRO waiting to happen all over again in that context.
Very good. Well, thank you for addressing that. I know it's something that folks have been talking about, and I think the U.S. has we have a lot to be proud of after a very, very successful 10-game run. And so, yeah, we should be talking about next steps. And I think the next few years coming out of the next World Cup is going to be a very interesting time for Team USA. So,
you know, one of the things to go about that is I guess we all need to send some notes to the boys, but I sent some notes to Gary today and to Greg McWilliams, and I said, you know, what they've been able to do with this player group, because the player group is a significant portion of this. I would say about 70%. They get it. They're the ones getting it done on the field, and then the coaching staff just puts them in position to get it done. Said, hey, thank you for this staff. I mean, they're the ones that have kept the drama out, because the players all know the issues that surround the union, and the staff has kept them focused, and the leadership group within that player group. Blaine Scully, who's also, I think he's president of the USRPA. He's a founding member of the USRPA, so he's currently driving the United States Rugby Players Association so that they can make sure that they get a fair shake from the union as they play, and probably eventually the MLR when things stabilize. But we had a perfect storm where we ended up with Gary Gold as our head coach, and Sean Pittman was assigned as forwards coach, and Greg McWilliams, who had been in the system as an under-20 coach and collegiate All-Americans coach, that, hey, they got promoted, and it has worked out. And I was just, hey, thank you for doing a job. And so these guys deserve our support. The boys, like the Eagles themselves, I know too many of them now. It's like from Sean Davies, Will McGee, Blaine, Joe, Dylan, TD, Hanko, Tony Lamborn, Cam Dolan. Like, you can name the whole squad.
So popular.
You can. I mean, we can just name the whole squad. Like, these guys have put in the work to go 9-1 in test matches and 10-2 overall this season. And although they may feel a little pissed about what happened against Ireland, well, they've earned to be ranked 12 in the world. They have had a great year, but that is a foundation to build upon in 2019, not resting on laurels.
Speaking of building, this might be the perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about a team that is having some success, additional success. That's a terrible transition. Okay, moving on. Canada. Hey, congratulations, guys. Canada won 3 matches in a row. They cleared out their repertoire and are heading to the World Cup. So congratulations. Great for you guys. I am just so pleased to see that. Basically, what happened is they had 3 matches in a row, all played in France. To win those 3 matches, they went 65-19 over Kenya, 29-10 over Germany. That was the closest out of the 3. And then 43-6 over Hong Kong. That puts them into Pool B for the World Cup next year, where they're going to face Italy, Namibia. Namibia. I'm sorry.
Namibia.
Yeah. New Zealand and South Africa. Namibia. I don't think that's a place.
Are those teams good? Are New Zealand and South Africa, are they competitive?
I think New Zealand's really an up-and-coming act. I've been hearing a little bit of buzz about them lately.
Yeah, but no, on the real though, I'm really excited at the fact that Canada is going into a pool with South Africa and New Zealand, because those 2 teams are going to get tons of exposure, especially when it comes to the television audience, and that's going to bring more attention to the North American rugby market. And which means the more exposure, the more rugby players, especially the lower tier rugby players in those countries are going to hear about our league. Because obviously the commentators are going to be talking about it. It's exposure for the MLR, and the more people are going to want to come over here and just add to our pool. So it's great that a North American team is going up against, two World Cup. I don't want to call South Africa a favorite, but two World Cup legitimate contenders.
Congratulations to Canada. I remember I was talking to Mark Winokur last 2 weeks ago, and he was like, "Are you sure you want Canada to win and get out of the repechage? You seem to be about Germany." And I was like, "Well, I think Germany's going to beat you," which I was completely wrong in that call, but it for a moment it looked like it, but like in the Germany match against Hong Kong, the fitness and the experience and the talent of Canada took over, especially in the second half of both matches, even though I put way too much confidence in the German set piece to get things done in that match against Canada. But it is better for us for them to be there. One of the things that we talk about in this is a rising tide raises all boats. So Canada being in the World Cup will make the U.S. better because that will focus so much more media exposure internationally on North America. Because as Liam, you just talked about the pool they're in, the pool we're in will get a ton of media exposure as well, with which we have Argentina, Tonga, but here's some huge markets. I think England and France are in our pool. Yeah. So huge. So the amount of like free exposure that Major League Rugby will get from World Rugby films, it's sort of like NFL films, but it's for rugby, is going to be huge, and it will help the league grow in notoriety, and maybe we won't have commentators calling it not a proper league. I think is what
not a proper side. You can't play Wales without a proper side.
Yeah, something like that.
In Wales, that's what I think.
So, you'd think that coaches who have a game the next day wouldn't be in the booth, but that's just me. For Canada, that experience just took over. The back line just did what it does, and DTH, he just does what he does, man. Sometimes when you think he's just not going to do something, he just does it. So, and
let's not forget about that really underrated front row of Canada, where you got Hubert Bidens, Ray Barkwell, and Tierney. Bidens and Barkwell, they're kind of on the back nine of their career. This is probably legitimately going to be their last Rugby World Cup. But still, you have two guys coming in with tons of experience for the younger guys. And when we talk about wanting to get exposure for North America, those are two, semi-marketable names for the North American continent who are going to be going over there for one last go about for the World Cup.
So if I'm gonna stick a nail in the hand of Kingsley Jones for this one, is you either need to develop another hooker or you need to play Eric Howard. Because it looks like Benoit Pifferot is gone. Like he ain't, from what we can see so far, he ain't coming back because he's just not healthy from what I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong, but he hasn't been back in the side, and you've continuously selected Eric Howard into camp, but you aren't using him. And he is younger, he's fitter. Maybe his line-out throw sucks a little bit, but you work on that in practice. But you're going to need another hooker, just another one, and he happens to be the one on your sheet. Use him, because Ray's almost 39. So he can probably put in, a 75-minute shift against Kenya, but is he going to be able to put a 75-minute shift against New Zealand and South Africa? Probably not.
Well, kind of like I said, I think, Ray is one of those locker room presences in terms of, or veteran presences that you want on the team more so, especially going into something like the World Cup with somebody as young as Eric Howard. Yeah, but again, he's 39. He's probably not going to be an 80-minute man for very much longer. So, it's probably better that Canada develop a system, develop another hooker to make sure that they can get through 80 minutes with a legitimate and, competent front row, especially with somebody like Biden's and Tierney on either side.
Well, and Biden's is 37, so they need to develop another loose head too.
Yeah, but I'm like, that hair though, it's a presence.
the beard and the hair
are the most marketable things on that team. I know. Sorry, Ray.
Hey, I'm going bald too, so I wish I had his hair. But I guess we're on to the next one.
On to the next one. Kits. All kinds of kits. Yeah, so MLR teams put out their 2019 kits last week. I'm not sure what to say about this one, guys. I guess one of you, Liam, you just finished up a fashion degree, right?
English degree. Thank you. With
sorry.
That is like fashionista.
You know what my fashion was during college? It was sweatpants. It was this exact sweatshirt, and it was me just curled up in the library waiting for the sweet embrace of death. That was my fashion in college. When we talk about MLR, I really want to talk about the NOLA Gold because, oh my God, is that shit sexy. They've got, it's kind of the like the fading out stripe down the middle. It's this great color scheme, obviously, go gold. But one thing I want to ask, though, is what happened to the San Diego uniforms with the cool-ass decal from last year? I think they dropped that into favor of something a little bit more traditional.
So there's more than a few teams that took some L's for me. The Legion away kit last year was awesome. The Legion, I know some people don't like the Legion home kit, but I didn't like that Legion home kit last year because it made me think of Saracens, and they're not Saracens. They're somebody else. But the Legion home kit this year is just kind of blasé. So Utah, both of them step back because if you saw the gray and you saw the black, it was a sublimated face of the warrior of the warrior shield, which was pretty awesome, I have to say. So I think those are loved the face last season. The wins for me were the Raptors home, the Seattle away. Austin's both kits for Austin are a significant upgrade. I saw Houston's back in July, and I liked those as well.
They're classy.
So there you go.
Yeah, well, I also think a fair point to make is nothing could be uglier than those yellow striped Glendale uniforms from last year. I don't know what C- designer thought that was going to be a good idea, but glad that they're going to move in a different direction.
Now, one of the problems I know we ran into last year, or at least I noticed on a few matches, were when home and away kits for opposing teams would look basically identical. And I noticed that there's going to be a few of those matchups this year, especially in the whites and reds categories. Do you think there's going to be anything done to address those issues this time around?
I mean, it's pretty simple. If your kit manager, which is probably your team manager here because, staffs are pretty small. But if your kit manager can't go, they're wearing red at home. We should probably bring the black jerseys this week instead of conflict. Utah away jersey and San Diego home jersey. Oh, there we go. I already fixed it for you. Utah, you're taking your home kit to San Diego. There you go. Done. It's already done. It's already done. That's simple.
You'd think it'd be that simple, but at the same time, I've seen NFL games where that's still a problem. So I don't know. I think I feel like people are going to wear what they're going to wear.
Yeah, and then I guess you've got the away whites for. Well, I mean, if you're gonna go from San Diego to New Orleans, they said they're wearing white at home, so you just bring the reds. Another simple one. Done.
Which is dumb though.
Or since the plane flight is usually on Thursday night, you just get on the phone because both kits should be clean. And you just grab the bag that has the one color. You just get on the phone. You say, hey, what kit are you guys wearing this weekend? Oh, blue. Got it. Click. Done.
All right, we will wear the opposite of blue. But no, it's never that fucking simple. Welcome to MLR.
Yeah, so there we go. Yeah, so it should be easy to figure out, but that's just me.
My one observation on kits was that Toronto has a almost completely white kit. I can't remember if it's home or away. And I'm thinking that might be kind of a bid on their part to disappear into the frozen white tundra of the north, just as an advantage for their team. You know, become one with the snow.
I think it's still going to be wintry when they play Glendale. So in Glendale, so they're just going to wear white and yeah.
Hopefully fade away. I still maintain my opinion, though, that the new Toronto logo, having switched from the Ontario Arrows to Toronto, it looks like the logo of a summer camp. There's just something about it that's just not professional, and I don't like it. I want to be on the record saying that.
Maybe they have a lot of summer camps in Toronto. Maybe they're trying to hit up that market for people to buy tickets.
Well, the Ontario symbol made them look like they were a member of Starfleet, so I'm not sure that's better.
I'd rather be a part of Starfleet than in the next shitty sequel to White Hot American Summer. I'm just saying.
Oh, hey guys, were there any transactions this week?
Oh, there might have been a few there, guy. But so right here on my list, I got Alex Mcdonald coming in for a lock to Rooney to add a little bit of power to that scrum that they got going there. Same thing in Houston where they got Luke Beaucamp coming in at flanker. Gotta love those flankers. He's a guy with a lot of tackling ability who could perhaps fix some of those defensive problems that Houston saw last year. And then finally, I got Sean Riley who's going down to NOLA to help a little bit out on that attack on the wing. And we're going to see how Coach Osborne handles him and can get him opportunities with the ball. Aaron, who the hell do you have?
All right. So this is, one of the things I've been talking about, and the SaberCats are starting to do that, is building out a full coaching staff. They now have 4 coaches for the senior side. The newest addition is Neil Kelly, SaberCats defense coach. If anyone has taken the time like I have to look at his background, he's coached all over the place in rugby league. He was the head coach of the Welsh Rugby League team a long, long time ago. So that's pretty intense. So he has international experience as a head coach. They played 5 games and won 1 and lost 4. And it's probably almost impossible to really draw that well during that period of time because, well, Wales isn't really a big rugby league territory, so really nothing to take from there. But extremely successful as a head coach and assistant in professional league from the Dewsbury Rams, Widnes Vikings, Leeds Centurions, and most recently Dewsbury Rams again. In Union, though, which is the important part, he has been a defense coach. At Ulster Rugby for 4 years, 04 to 08, at Doncaster in 2010, and then where he's been most recently is Namibia in 2011, and after that, he was most recently the defense coach for Romania on the last staff.
Looks like they could have used him a few weeks ago there in Romania, huh?
Yeah, things sort of happen. So rugby league guys are known for being defense coaches in Union, and you're bringing in a high-level defense coach, which is going to be important as things go forward. I am a big proponent of, bigger coaching staffs, because I think I talked about it the other day. About eight guys is what I think we need here in the United States as far as technical coaches overall, because we've got a lot of really raw rugby players, and it's better if you have a front row coach and a back row coach and an attack coach that just worries about attack and coaching attack, and then a defense coach that just worries about coaching defense, and then you have a backs coach and a halfbacks coach to do all that stuff, and then a head coach, of course. But that's just me, and I have sometimes a minority opinion.
Wait, are you telling me that you've had opinions that others have not agreed with?
I think that happens like every day.
Just go on Twitter and check his frickin' tweets and replies. You'll see a whole goddamn resume of people who don't fucking agree with Eric. Pretty sure it's a fan. I think you know who the president is there, huh?
The cough. That was so good.
Oh, golly. So one of the things we love doing here is taking questions from Bob. These are questions we collect from our Reddit page. You can find that over at reddit.com/r/MLRugby. Come join the thousands of other MLR fans and talking about the game.
And you will get to see some of my spicy memes.
And check out Liam's spicy memes that are always just so fun.
Mm-hmm.
So first, starting us off this week, we've got Charlie Mellon. Anyway, Charlie wants to know, what would it take to start an MLR franchise?
So I sort of did a lot of beer math. It wasn't really beer math. It's sort of taking some of the franchises and looking at what they got. So, let's say Houston or San Diego, for an example. Let's say you need $10 million liquid to run a franchise for at least 3 years. And then if you're doing this correct, you've got another 20 to 30 million in assets to back up that investment. Just for that. That doesn't mean I'm not talking about whatever else you have or whatever else the ownership group is, but that's the kind of commitment that will make your team successful based on all of the conversations that I've had across the league. What is the buy-in for 2020? I don't know, mill and a half, maybe three. I've heard a lot of numbers. I heard a lot of numbers for 2019, and it's pretty secret.
Yeah. And I think a pretty important thing is to say too is that you have to be within a market that the league is going to find interesting, or can foresee there being some profit to be made.
I think if you're not in a target market, you need to have a lot of money.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about a team coming to Obets or a team going to Cleveland or something like that. Cleveland's another story. You got the Rugby City podcast, which I totally recommend people checking out. But it's a market that I don't think is as oriented towards rugby as a few others could be, as opposed to Atlanta, which I think is a hotbed of Southern rugby down there. So I think the league would sees a place like Atlanta as being better as opposed to Cleveland. A team isn't going to go in Obets. I might be wrong, and some people might want to chew me out on Twitter over that. But I don't see that ever going to come to fruition, especially now that we know that Tiger Rugby is heavily invested within the Atlanta team. So yeah, market is everything, which is why they brought a team to Boston and to New York, and maybe why the Minneapolis team fell through, other than the ownership group moving to San Diego.
All right, Proton Warrior asks, any chance of Florida being a prospect for a franchise? Kind of related to this last conversation.
Florida. Oh, my mic was on.
Proton Warrior, Florida. Yeah. Apparently the French like it. I don't know. I've heard some rumors, and they've all been about French people working in Florida, trying to see what they could do. One of them was fake, and one of them is not fake. If you see them out there, The one that is connected to some guy who used to play for Bordeaux is fake. That I can tell you. But who wouldn't want to play in Miami?
Well, I mean, one, Miami's not going to be there in 20 years. Global warming's going to see to that. Two, I don't know. I personally haven't heard about a ton of rugby, especially at the D1 men elites level, being prominent down in Miami. You know, when was the last time that you saw a club make it to the D1 playoffs coming out of Florida?
Well, there is no D1 rugby in Florida.
Yeah, so essentially, what pool are you going to be taking from in Florida that's not that's not prominent players from other parts of the country? You know, like at least like with Boston, you have Mystic River and the Wolfhounds. That's a local talent pool to pull from. Like, are you going to be able to feel the competitive side within an exhibition season coming out of Miami or a Tallahassee or, God forbid, frickin' Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's got to be Miami. Otherwise, if it's Miami, we're taking the pod on the road. It's not.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If it's not, I don't know. Maybe.
Do we even need a team in Miami? Can we not just do an episode like from the beach?
Yeah. I don't need a lot of reasons to not go to Miami. You know. Yeah.
Is there good Wi-Fi on the beach?
It depends on where you're at, but yeah, you know.
I mean, Santa Monica had Wi-Fi on the beach. I know that. That was pretty cool. In Boston, the Boston Commons have Wi-Fi, like, you know, just freaking emanating from the trees, or like, you know, I don't know where the hell it's coming from, but you can get it.
All right, moving along. V-Wolf, not the Wolf, V-Wolf wants to know, is Rugby United New York the worst professional sports team name in North America?
No, the Columbus Crew, Sporting Kansas City,
Okay. Real Salt Lake.
Yeah, that's just dumb.
So Real is something to signify, you know, royal, and the El Camino Real was the royal road in California. And that's what you like sort of gave that designation. Although like Utah was part of a Spanish colony, there wasn't much there that got a Real designation by the Spanish crown. So yeah,
I would put my worst on Utah Jazz.
there is actually makes more sense than Real Salt Lake. There is a very big jazz scene, surprisingly.
You realize that's not why they're called the Utah Jazz, though. That they used to be
because they used to be the New Orleans Jazz, except that it sort of fit the scene. So, yeah.
I just don't think of, you know, Salt Lake City as being a jazz hub of America.
Well, yeah. You know, most people don't because like skiing and stuff, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I just like to say that I'm glad that the Free Jacks are avoiding a lot of mention in this conversation, because I think people are starting to catch on to that name. I think people are liking it, whether they like to admit it or not.
I think we've accepted it. I don't know if we like it.
Jackson, baby. Jackson.
Oh gosh. Okay. Fridge 307. Are we expecting any rules changes next season? Any rules the hosts would like to see changed?
Who wants a power try? Okay, no one.
I want to see overtime. I hate ties.
So
we were lucky to avoid any ties last season, but no, I think Pro did right.
So I would say, well, all your rule changes have to be approved by World Rugby, because all the rule changes that are implemented. But I don't like ties or draws, as we say. So a 5-minute period of overtime would be nice, and we can go straight NFL sudden death. You know, and then if you get past the 5-minute period, there's your draw. I think that works. or maybe 2 5-minute periods. I don't know, but sudden death is what I would go with.
That would work for me. Or a shootout, but with penalty kicks. I want to see that.
So yeah. Well, I think that's you get a penalty. I think maybe I'll get fact checked by a coach who's watching, but I think penalty kicks goes into tournament stuff in the World Cup at a certain juncture. There are penalty kicks to. I think I have to look it up. I might be talking out of my butt, but find out.
Yeah. All right. Well, on our way out, Liam, I know you wanted to take a minute and talk about upcoming exhibition match with the Sabercats taking on the Austin Blacks, is it?
Yep, the Austin Blacks. So this is one of the first exhibition games coming into the MLR season. Now, talking to Sabercat coaches, they were a little bit, or at least one was a little bit hesitant to call this a Sabercat match. However, what's really cool about this match is that it's a great combination of players who are going to be staple starters, such as Zach Pangilinan and Connor Murphy. But we're also going to get to see a plethora of West Houston Lions players make it onto the field, so that Coach Fitzpatrick can see what he has in terms of the newer generation. Two of those names that people should definitely be looking out for in the future: Irving Carcamo and Darrell Williams. Two guys that can really attack the defense. Darrell Williams in particular, he had a great game last week in which he had an interception and a try at the very same time. So this game is really all about the future of the Sabercats, and it's not just a knockoff game for the rust on players like Murphy and Pangilinan. This is really going to be about what do the Sabercats have moving forward. And I think a team like the Blacks, who are one of the most dominant teams in the Red River Conference, is definitely the kind of setting in which to do this. It's only a 2-hour drive from Houston, and it's going to be some really competitive rugby.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll look forward to that one. Do you know if there's any broadcast coming up on that one?
No, I will try to live tweet it, but unfortunately, I might be, well, not unfortunately, I like doing it, but I think I'm going to be filming the game for coaches footage. But if not, I will try to be sending out some live tweets for people to follow. You can catch me on Twitter at Poacher Tundra.
Excellent.
You can definitely tweet per quarter.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, you guys will be left to run the ship next week. But before I get into that, a quote from the great Paul Emmerich about Neil Kelly. It's great to have a defensive specialist in the building.
Yeah, I walked into his bedroom and was just like, yo, or then I was like sitting on the couch near him. I was like, yo, Paul, do you have anything to say about Neil Kelly? And he was like, great to have a defensive guy in the building. It's great to be in the same house with the coach.
Everyone else does offense. But as I said, I am going hunting next week. Not every day you can get a bull tag for elk, so I'm gonna go get that. And if things work out, I'll be bringing back about 200 pounds worth of game meat in a couple of weeks because I'm not going to be near my house, so I can't do it in the backyard. So I'll drop it off at a butcher up there in the mountains and come back. And, if anyone wants to have some elk steaks, you can give me a holler and come down to Arizona, and we'll grill out and be merry.
Well, I cut the distance between you and myself in half with the most recent move. So that's looking like a possibility there.
So.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much. I guess that wraps it up for us. I appreciate everyone who's been listening for tuning in this week. Once again, we are Earful of Dirt. We do this every Monday night here on YouTube, and we have our podcast, the audio version, up every Wednesday morning. If you like what we do, please subscribe to us on our YouTube channel as well as our iTunes feed. That helps folks discover what we're doing, other folks. And be sure to share your own news, views, and abuse with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All right. Until next time, for Liam, Aaron, and me, thank you guys so much for listening. Aaron, be safe. Don't shoot yourself in the foot or anything. And we'll catch. Liam, I'll catch you next week.
Hell yeah! I'll see you then.
Take care, guys.
Peace.